Hey folks, it's David here at Mojo, and today I'm going to go over a new service that we're going to be launching next week, free of charge as a courtesy for our customers. And as you can see here on the screen, what I'm talking about is caller ID whitelisting. And I'm going to cover the ins and outs of this caller ID whitelisting throughout this video. But I want to give a quick summary of why we've gone this way as a company. Over the last few years, we've seen a pretty significant fall in contact rates throughout our user environment. And we've attributed a lot of that to Stir Shaken Protocol, which was launched within the last couple of years. It rolled out fully, I think, this last June in completion. We're also seeing a lot of crowdsourcing apps, which are giving end users the ability to flag calls as spam likely, as well as some other things on the telecommunications side based on callers' behavior, where they're either labeling a call as spam or blocking it altogether. So, in a nutshell, we've seen the effects of this, and we wanted to work on a way that we could help mitigate this for our customers and do it correctly. So that's what we've come up with, this caller ID whitelisting. So here are the benefits of this new service. The first thing you'll notice once you do this is that you're going to have a higher contact rate. And what that means is your live answer rate is going to go up. Naturally, we can't predict who's going to pick the phone up, but we do know from testing this silently, as well as bringing some betas on, there's a pretty significant increase in live connections. And that's both live answers, like the hello, or contact, and things like answer machines. You're going to get significantly less spam tagging. It will all but eliminate call blocking on the carrier level. T-Mobile, and Sprint are notorious for this. You're going to give a more professional first impression to those that you call, and overall, you're going to have a significantly less impact from the Stir Shaken protocol. So, what does Mojo's whitelisting do? Well, first, we partnered with someone in the space that is kind of the overall overseer, if you will, of all of the Stir Shaken data. That includes CNAM and caller ID name information. So we're going to create a legitimate CNAM record for your caller IDs. This caller ID name is going to show on the target's phone that you're calling. Now you'll see there's an asterisk here, and that is just because we can't determine exactly what types of phones that your name's going to show up on. For sure, it's going to show up on a landline, but right now, the industry predicts that there's about a 10% show rate on mobile phones. So not all calls are going to show the caller ID name. In fact, when it comes to mobile phones, 90% are not. So it's about 10%. I hope I said that right the first time. That are going to see that caller ID name. But the benefit in the background is that the telecommunication carriers you're calling into are seeing that there's a CNAM record, and that's important. You're going to get real-time spam label feedback loop, and that's actually on our partner side. We're not going to feed it into Mojo. We don't want to have to run APIs for that. It's just simply a way for us to ensure that anytime your numbers are tagged as spam, that within 24 hours, they're going to go and put their best foot forward to clear that spam. And because they're kind of the purveyors of this data, it's really effective. You're also going to have a higher reputation with telecom carriers, and I'm sure you've heard this over the last few years, that reputation on a phone number is largely important, or it's largely responsible, I should say, for how the telecommunication carriers that you call into using Mojo, or even your regular phone, how they treat that phone call. And I want to take a pause here and bring something up. This whitelisting will work on all phone numbers. And when we get into the next slide, where we're going to talk about the process, I'm going to try to break down the differences between a virtual phone number that you might have from another service and your actual cell phone or office line that you may want to whitelist and present as your caller ID. So what does the process look like? Well, you're going to add the caller ID just as you do today, whether it's a virtual number or a landline or an office phone or a mobile phone, to the Mojo system and go through the existing verification process. That verification process simply just gets it in the system. It validates that you can get a phone call back on that number. And then you're going to go ahead and add the caller ID name to display. And you'll see there's an asterisk here. And the reason for that is we are going to have to, you'll see a little further down on the list, Mojo and a Mojo employee is going to look at that caller ID name to make sure it's legitimate. It can't be anything spoofy. It needs to be an actual name. My suggestion would be, if it's an agent making phone calls on your behalf, either use your name because you're the Mojo account holder, or if it's their cell phone, have them use their name. But we're going to look at it, and we're going to make sure that it's not a bogus name before we submit it to our third-party partner. You'll need to agree to the terms once you add the caller ID name. And then, again, the Mojo employee receives a request, and the information is reviewed. And again, that's where we're going to look at that and say, hey, is this going to go forward in the process, or are we going to hold it back because something doesn't look right? Mojo is going to send the whitelist information, the phone number you want a CNAM record for, and the name you want displayed. And again, that's only going to show up on about 10% of mobile phones, but most of landlines. And we're going to send that off to our service provider. This is important because once we do this, these folks are powerful enough that it's going to override the phone number throughout the entire telco environment. What that means is, if you were to, let's say, add your cell phone number to Mojo, and let's say your cell phone number already shows up with a caller ID name. Once you add it to Mojo and whitelist it, our whitelisting is going to take priority over what your phone had originally. So we want this data to be very accurate, because when you call your grandmother to wish her a, happy Thanksgiving, that's what's going to show up. Our partner is actually going to call you and verify the caller ID and verify that the appropriate name is showing. There's another asterisk here, and the reason for that is that process takes about 20 to 30 days. However, as soon as you whitelist this and send it to us, the caller ID name is going to appear and the CNAM record is going to be created within 48 to 72 hours. So there's a little bit of time that passes where we're doing the work already for you before the third party is going to verify that information. So again, we just want everything to be accurate, and you should see the effects of this within 48 to 72 hours. So that's going to go ahead and end the intro. I'm going to go ahead and open up Mojo and show you kind of what that's going to look like. So here I am in Mojo. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And the first place we're going to go is the settings area. On the existing design, it's up here where your name is. If you're on our beta release, you'll find it in the bottom left area. So I'm going to go ahead and click Settings. Lucky for me, the first place we come to is the caller ID area. You're going to see here that there is a new column. It's called Whitelisted. And there's an option here. It's called View. So when I click View, that's going to open up my whitelisting settings. Now, if this was already whitelisted, had you already gone through the process, there'd be a green checkbox here. So you wouldn't need to do anything with that. But all existing and newly added caller IDs in the Mojo system will have to go through this process. There's nothing automated here. So this is a number that was already on the account. I'm going to go ahead and click View and enter a caller ID name. All right. Now, I'm going to go ahead and check this box to say, have my caller ID whitelisted. When I do that, it pops up some terms I need to go through. And I'm not going to go through these now. I've pretty much covered everything in this video so far. But the main thing is I have to click that I fully understand the terms. I fully read them and I understand them. Once I do that, that's going to generate a system update to our employees, and they're going to get that in real time. And that's when we're going to begin that process. We're going to look at the caller ID name, make sure that's legitimate, and move forward. One thing I want to make sure there's no confusion on. You'll see here that there's a label and it says Ringo Starr. This label has nothing at all to do with any of this whitelisting information. This label is for your internal use. It always has been. So Just note that. Don't think that this label is what's going to show up. You need to go through the process. So what if I want to change the caller ID name that shows when I'm calling? That's okay. I can go in here and I can put in a different name, and it's going to ask me to agree to the terms again. That's going to create an edit query to our employees, and they'll again review that information, and then when appropriate, which we're hoping that every single time it's the case, we're going to send that off to our third party as an edit, and they're just going to edit that caller ID name and leave everything else that they've already done for verification purposes in place. Now, back to virtual phone numbers. This will work for virtual phone numbers. When the verification process from the third party happens, though, you have to be able to get a phone call back on that virtual phone number. So as an example, if you're using Google Voice, we can put a CNAM record on Google Voice and give it a caller ID name. However, it needs to be able to be called back. So if you're routing that number to some sort of dead end, let's say like a voicemail, ultimately it's not going to work, because if they don't get a chance to verify that, any initial work they've done when you first whitelist that phone number will be removed, and that number will no longer be in here in this list with an indication that it's whitelisted. So that's our new whitelisting service. We hope that you guys really like this. Moving forward, Mojo Voice, as you probably know, is undergoing a major facelift, and I'm excited to say that with a new Mojo Voice, not only are you're going to get whitelisted, like I've demonstrated here today, but you're also going to get an attestation rating, of A, which in Stir Shaken is the highest quality phone call. So that's really exciting stuff. Be on the lookout for that. If you have any questions about this new whitelisting service, please give us a call or email direct tech, T-E-C-H, at mojocells, M-O-J-O cells.com. Until next time, folks, make it a great day.